Can you believe that we have just achieved the end of our third year together? How did the challenges that you faced this year shape your personal growth and development? What were the biggest lessons we learned this past year, and how can we apply them to our lives moving forward? Are you ready to reflect on the past year and celebrate your personal growth journey? Join me after the intro for a walk on memory lane that celebrates not just this third year milestone, but also, and more importantly, the main characters that make this show. A bunch of 40 truly amazing people who contributed to it, and you, the listener. So once again, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's start. Hi, I'm Rosssana D, and this is Forgive and Thrive, a podcast where we explore what thriving in life means and how we can achieve it, irrespective of our past, current condition, and expectations that those around us or society in general may have. Let's go. Welcome to a special episode of the Forgive and Thrive show. Today, we celebrate the end of our third year together. And although we didn't mark it publicly, we have also published well over 100 episodes, 157 today, in fact, which again, I found quite remarkable. And because I've learned through pain, despair, confusion, depression, abuse, losses, and betrayals, that any excuse is a good one to celebrate and raise a virtual glass of bubbling, I hope you would indulge me and join me in this celebration. Just as we did at the end of year one and year two, I like to take this opportunity to pause and reflect on what we have learned this year. And in the style that has become a true tradition, I'm going to take you on a walk down memory lane to reminisce about some of our best moments and connect the various episodes in a way that can point you, the listener or watcher, in the direction of what you might have missed or perhaps what you may want to listen or watch again. It's a way to celebrate what it has been, some of the lessons I learned, and acknowledge some amazing people I met along the way. Because, like all good things in life, this podcast is the result of many brains coming together. Mine and that of the 40 amazing guests I had the honor to chat with in year three. We have striven to remain faithful to our mission, which is twofold. Firstly, to increase understanding and decrease stigma around mental health issues. And secondly, to provide guidance, tools, and support to those facing challenges, suggesting that perhaps forgiveness can be a helpful tool for letting go of emotions that harsh challenges may have imposed upon us, but are no longer serving our life goals. By releasing those emotions, we can take back control of our lives, moving from being passive victims to active drivers of our own journey towards thriving. And we did all this through sharing personal stories and experiences that allowed you, our listener and watcher, to get to know us and our guests better and hopefully relate to our journeys. But while staying faithful to our mission, we have also purposefully expanded the range of topics. Because at the end of the day, any challenge can push us beyond the edge, and we hope it was appreciated. A major development happened in August 2023 when we moved our podcast from being in audio form only to be available also in video form on YouTube and more recently also on Spotify. I hope that having the opportunity to watch me and my guests and taking advantage of some additional elements that video editing offers can improve your experience, making it a bit more enjoyable and fun to watch while continuing to benefiting from high quality content. This upgrade also allowed us to solidify the episode topics to revolve around 5 main and intertwined themes: well-being, mindset, self-awareness, relationship, and career. And focus on how these 5 themes affect our mental well-being and how our mental well-being can challenge every other aspect of our life. To mark this major development, I had some fun by staging an interview to myself to talk about the Forgive and Thrive podcast and answer some of the FAQs that you may have. If you are curious and want to learn why and how everything started and the philosophy behind the show, watch me interviewing myself in episode 123. As we reflect on the past year, we are grateful for all the support and feedback we have received. We hope to continue delivering thought-provoking and informative content in the years to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we hope you enjoyed this special anniversary episode. And if you enjoy listening to and watching our podcast and find our content valuable, we would greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to like, comment, and share our content with anyone who might need it. And if you want to go the extra mile, we would also appreciate if you could leave us a positive review. You will find the link in the show note. Please remember that liking, commenting, and sharing our content and channel is really the only way to support our mission and to help us continue with this work. So, what have we talked about during our third year together? Well, we started a new year in May, which is dedicated to mental health awareness. We kicked year 3 with a conversation with Well Said in episode 107, with whom we discussed how to protect our mental health. Well reminded us that we matter and our mental health matters. And even 5 minutes a day can suffice to train our mind to see the bright side. And forgiveness is a tool that can support us accepting whatever happened to us and giving ourselves the permission to move forward. In episode 148, Isa Mary Blanco introduced us to the ancient shamanic tradition of forgiveness and healing. Forgiveness takes time and effort, but as Isa Mary reminded us, nobody is more deserving than us. And if that is somewhat challenging, there are many techniques that we can self-impart and take advantage of. In episode 109, we talk about this very topic with Christine Bernard, who reminded us how important learning about self-regulating our nervous system is. But if you feel more comfortable getting help, in episode 112, Christina Woods introduced us to a form of hypnotherapy called RTT, Rapid Transformation Therapy, that can help us diving into our subconscious and find the answers that we need. But for that, we need to learn to tune in our bodies and discern between triggers that are external to us and what is truly inside us. I talked about this and how to regulate our nervous system with Leah Drew in episode 149. And a cheap and cheerful way to calm our nervous system is breathing. We explored the power of deep breathing in episode 129 with Lee Davey. It might sound as an unconventional healing practice, but do you know that also music can heal? In episode 122, I talked with Dr. Tanya English about the healing power of the blues music. But navigating our subconscious can sometimes be challenging. And in some cases, nature can support that discovery. In episode 116, Beth Bell introduced us to plant medicine, explaining what it can do for us, what it is, and clarifying some of the misconceptions around this field and some of the concerns people may have. Approaching plant medicine with the right information and state of mind is paramount. Nature and its restorative power and impact on our well-being was also stressed by Etienne Persman in episode 120. It was during an extraordinary and healing event in nature that he started the journey of discovery that brought him to explore different healing modalities and methodologies and found the healing power of the craniosacral gentle touch as the closest experience to the one he had in nature. And learning about tuning in with our body is crucial because often the first signs that our mental well-being is being compromised can be found in our body. Many issues are related, for example, to the good functioning of our gut, because our gut and our mind are connected. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch episode 142 when Josh Deck explained to us how these two parts are interdependent and also how habits we have, especially regarding the food we eat, can affect both of them. If we look after our gut, many leading causes of death can be prevented. In episode 121, I explored this topic in a conversation with Pranita Salunke about the habits that we have as a society and that can really contribute to modern illnesses, like, for example, chronic diseases. And in episode 124, in my conversation with Lisa Marie, we also learned that our destiny is not written in our DNA. But according to the latest science and findings on epigenetics, the choices and experiences that we make can impact us down to our genes, health, and overall well-being. The emotional impact they bring is certainly not negligible. And we can prevent that by taking care of our body. And if we have neglected ourselves, chances are that we have put extra weight on. I know for a fact that when stress rises, I tend to overeat and not be very conscientious with the choices I make. Then the idea of losing the extra weight puts a further emotional toll on me. Practicing patience and recognizing that getting back in shape is a long game is crucial. I've talked about this very topic just last week in episode 156 with Megan Gall, when we were reminded that slow and steady wins the race. In addition to healthy habits, our mindset is crucial, even when getting back to shape. It is important to approach it with the right mindset. Be in a good relationship with your body and make peace with it. I learned about body peace in my conversation with Nina Monoson in episode 125. This is something I feel very passionate about as someone who has struggled all her life with her body image and weight, but also as the proud aunt of a 9-year-old girl who is far too aware of what body type is socially acceptable and what not. I reflected on the often attainable societal beauty standards we are bombarded with and the impact they can have on all of us in episode 111. One way to escape the trap of these unattainable standards is acceptance of ourselves and who we are. This is not always easy to do. Fears and societal pressure to conform with what others expect us to be make us sometimes live a life that doesn't fulfill us or represent who we are. But taking that mask down and coming out for who we are is the only way to live a fulfilling life and thrive. I discussed this very important topic with Wendy Cole in episode 133. And from accepting who we are to liking ourselves more. A very interesting view on how we can like ourselves more was offered by Alan Castell in episode 131, where he suggests kindness as the easiest route to like ourselves more. But sometimes we carry a big, deep pain inside that doesn't allow us to be positive and compassionate towards ourselves. What to do then? Well, we can make that pain be our blessing in disguise and become our life purpose, just as Phyllis DeWitt did. You can listen to her inspiring story in episode 108. Phyllis reminded us not to lose hope and to always continue to move forward. This is not always easy to do. Life always finds the way to test us and our resilience. But no matter how rough the sea waves are or strong the storm is, you can still thrive in it. In episode 115, Bill Murphy invited us to take on challenges and not to be defeated by the idea of facing a storm, because we are capable of much more than we think possible. And sometimes it's the fear of what is on the other side that stops us from achieving the greatest we are capable. In episode 117, Georgia G and I dive deep in understanding self-sabotage, how we do it, and how we can stop it. Because as Georgia reminded us, these patterns are not who we are. When we embrace who we are and focus on bringing out in our life our own virtues, instead of focusing on everything that goes around us, we have a true chance to build a happy life, as Ryan Bush reminded us in episode 137. And if we get comfortable living in the questions and understanding the agreements we make with ourselves day after day, we can start living fearlessly, as Susan Lazar-Hart reminded us in episode 154. And from that space of deep self-awareness, we can design the life that most aligns with who we are, as we learned in our conversation with Tamara Zoner in episode 110. And there is no limit to what you can get or age limit that can prevent you from getting there. And if you think that perhaps you are just too old for going after what you want, Alicia Berberich in episode 134 advised us to just consider where we are right now and move forward from there. Because the past is past and we cannot change it. So better stop dwelling on it. And in redesigning that aligned life, we can make conscious decision of what serves us in our life and what doesn't. And that may include even in what way we hustle in our job without feeling the pressure that society puts on us, as Erin Harrigan reminded us in episode 114. But even when you resist the urge of unhealthy hustling, work settings can be still the scene where tensions, anger, resentment, jealousy, envy, inequalities, and all sorts of disempowering emotions can be created. In episode 151, I reflected on the current status of gender equality or inequality that still exists in professional settings. We often talk about the glass ceiling that prevents women from achieving the top ranks of businesses and organizations. But the truth is, women have a tougher journey from the start, where the first rung that allows us that first move up is broken. Then there are many dynamics at work that can significantly affect our relationships, our productivity, but most importantly, our well-being. One of these consists in giving someone the silent treatment. Have you ever been on the receiving side of the silent treatment? Such a detrimental behavior can affect any type of relationship, but even more so in a working environment where the impact can extend to those belonging to the same groups and teams of those directly involved in that dynamic. Taking inspiration from a personal misunderstanding with a colleague of mine, I dive deep into exploring the silent treatment and how we can protect ourselves from its impact on our well-being. You can watch it in episode 153. Open communication is paramount for navigating the silent treatment by facing the issue with the other party. This may be a difficult conversation to tackle, and if you normally run away from difficult conversations instead of facing them head on, it may help you to learn a few tricks on how to approach them in a compassionate way. I discussed how to navigate difficult conversation without conflicts in episode 152. But who can address all this in a work setting and create a safe environment where everybody is valued and appreciated for their contribution? Well, who is currently in a leadership position and as such can mentor, coach, and sponsor young employees, especially young, capable women, to become tomorrow's leaders. This requires leaders that are conscientious, aware, and self-aware. I discussed about conscious leadership and what difference it can make in any organization with Michelle Phillips in episode 147. A conscious, aware, and compassionate leadership also helps employees navigate challenges that are part of life, but inevitably affect us also during our working hours. A very much under-considered challenge is dealing with a significant loss. Working policies normally allow 1 to 3 days to mourn the loss of a parent or a child, after which we are meant to go back to work and continue with business as usual. But we all know that the pain we feel inside doesn't vanish, certainly not in 3 days. A healthy working environment needs to account for this. I discuss how to navigate loss at work with Susanne Jabour in episode 132. But if the situation at work has become unsustainable and has started to affect you and your well-being, could a break be the answer? No, I'm not talking about a few days or a week, but rather a long career break that gives you the space and time to regenerate and reevaluate where you are in your personal and professional lives. And if the idea scares you, I get it, but I've got you covered. Check my conversation with Katrina McGee in episode 138 to learn everything there is to know about career breaks and sabbaticals. In addition to challenges at work, our relationships have the potential to put a significant toll on our emotional and psychological well-being. And if that's a concern of yours, no worries, we have you covered as well. One of the most difficult experiences we can face in our personal relationships is navigating betrayal. In episode 136, I talked with Vanessa Cardenas about recovering after your partner's infidelity. And although the first reaction might be to leave and separate, with patience, empathy, and compassion, it is possible also to rebuild the relationship with the right support. And betrayal is something that we can also experience with a friend. Drawing from a personal experience, I reflected on the price we pay when we are betrayed by a close friend and how to heal from it. You can watch it in episode 135. Whether betrayed by a friend or your partner, the first thing that is affected is trust in the other person. Sometimes, though, there are situations where, for example, we are taken advantage of. That tears down the trust we have in ourselves and our judgment. Scams are definitely self-trust destroyers. There are many kinds of scams, but they ultimately aim at the same thing, our money. The trouble is, we are often left completely wounded. I discussed this in episode 130, where I suggest a way out of that situation. Relationships that go wrong create in us a deep sense of being rejected that can affect us deeply and transform us in rejection junkies. I had the pleasure to discuss this topic with Dr. G in episode 113. The problem is that when we feel rejected, we tend to focus on what others think or say about us. But the way forward is actually to look inside and learn to accept ourselves for who we are. A strong emotion that often regulates our relationships is jealousy. Often regarded as a big negative emotion, we learn from our conversation with Dr. Jody Hamilton that actually jealousy can inform of what is happening in our relationship if we have the courage to listen. You can watch my interview with Jody in episode 144. Whatever the problem, if you struggle with your relationship, the cause may be the attachment style that you have developed with your primary caregiver as an infant. By understanding insecure attachment styles, we can build stronger and healthier connections. In episode 118, we discussed about attachment styles with Annabelle Arias. There are many reasons for creating attachment issues. Trauma that follows child abuse, for example, can leave often difficult to delete traces in us that affect our relationships long after the abuse has ended. In episode 143, I had the pleasure to talk with author Regina LaFrance, who recently released her semi-autobiographic novel where she tells about the abuses she endured as a child and the deep inner work she had to do to be able to overcome them. Other times, the danger is closer to home. In episode 141, I discussed one of the most heinous crimes that often affect our society, femicide. It doesn't know geographical boundaries or depend on poor socioeconomic conditions. And in the vast majority of cases, it is perpetrated by a family member, partner, or ex-partner. In 2024, it is unacceptable that we are still talking about femicide because someone has decided we are not living the way they decided for us to live. But even when the consequences don't get to such extreme actions, there are family relationships that are simply unhealthy. In episode 128, Geraldine Crane introduced us to the deep wounds children, especially girls, can develop out of a fractured relationship with their mother. These experiences can leave behind deep scars in our soul that, when not taken care of, can lead us to embrace behaviors and habits that are detrimental for us, including addictions. And addictions affect us deeply and affect our relationships as well. But remember, no matter how deep we are in our addiction, we are just good people with bad habits, as Billy Cogley reminded us in episode 127. And in episode 145, Melissa Yemen and I discussed about addiction from the point of view of the family. Because you see, the toll on those who love us is important too. We learned that if we can stay open-minded and willing to explore the issues that led our loved one to fall in the trap of addiction, we can grow together as a family. Being supportive and understanding, yet firm, is important at all stages of life, especially during the development years. How can we adults build a strong, healthy, and empowered relationship with our children or the children in our life that protect them while providing them with the tools they need in life? Conscious parenting is the answer. I discussed about this very topic in episode 126 with Nina Cruz. The work is absolutely worth because we cannot go back in time. That said, regardless of the decision made in the past, there is no better time to improve our parenting skills than right now. But being a parent is an art and not a science. Sometimes, in an attempt to provide them with everything we can, especially what we didn't have ourselves growing up, we may go too far. Have you ever seen houses with a couple of young children flooded with toys? Apart from the space they take and the financial repercussions, limiting or even removing toys from our children's life can have beneficial impact on their creativity and ability to connect with others. If you don't believe me, I had a conversation on what it means going toy-free with Emma Fullenwider in episode 139. And sometimes the pressure of being a good parent becomes so much heavier for those facing it all alone. Being a single parent is not a walk in the park, but it is possible. Certainly, it is not something to be ashamed of, and sometimes for the child, it can be a much healthier situation than living with two parents that fight all the time. Leanne Hutchinson and I talked about single parenting, the challenges, but also the rewards in episode 150. Whatever relationship you are thinking of right now, there is an aspect that sometimes we overlook to put in place: boundaries. When we don't understand our boundaries or we are unable to communicate them effectively, our relationships can become toxic and our well-being obviously can suffer. I discussed in depth all aspects related to boundaries with Heather Klaus in episode 146. And boundaries may even look like, I need some time alone to go through my thoughts and recharge the batteries. A time when we can have the space to do it is during the holidays. But then the pressure that we have to take part of all the family gatherings and be in party mood all the time can make it hard to pause. Whether that is your case or instead your life situation has evolved in such a way that you spend most of your time alone, there is an emotional toll that comes from the sense of loneliness that being alone as a default status can bring. Taking inspiration by spending the holiday alone, in episode 140, I reflected on how we can make the most of the time without spiraling into loneliness. All our guests and I have something in common. We all have stories to tell that can hopefully inspire you, listening or watching on the other side. And we have the courage to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly, the laws and the less laws. There are many more inspiring stories that have the same potential out there, that need to be heard, but unfortunately will never be told. Anxiety, stage fright, speaking challenges can all contribute to stop us from taking that leap and become the hero or heroine of our own story, transforming whatever mess we found ourselves in into a powerful message that can lift others. If that hits close to home for you, then in episode 155, Guy Monroe and I engage in a beautiful conversation that, from addressing some speaking challenges like stuttering and spasmodic dysphonia, discussed how to overcome stage fright and anxiety so you too can find your voice and the courage to share your beautiful journey. So here you have it. Here 3 wrapped. Well, I don't know you, but I believe there is a plenty for most of us. Nearly 50 hours of content and tips, what to do and how to overcome challenges, improve ourselves, and live better and more fulfilling lives. We are not alone or the only ones facing our own problems and demons. And there is no reason for us to stay stuck where we are. And if my guests did it, so can you and I. And with this in mind, instead of the usual quote, I want to leave you with yet another of my thoughts. Your story is your gift to the world. Don't be afraid to share it because someone out there needs to hear it. Your story has the power to inspire, to heal, and to connect us all. I'd like to thank one by one all my lovely guests for sharing so much with us about their life experiences and challenges, as well as their wins. We appreciate all of you for taking the time to support us in this project, and I found the energy, determination, and encouragement that comes from your words really inspiring. Finally, a big thank you to you, our listener or watcher. This show was thought, designed, and created with you in mind. And I hope that you have found it useful because we wouldn't make any sense without you and your support. So thank you. I'd love to know what you think about this year's content. If you find it valuable, then don't forget to share our episodes and to support this endeavor by subscribing to our channel, leaving us feedback, and if you feel like a good review. All the links are below in the description of today's episode. Additionally, if you would like to support us further, please consider sharing our podcast with your friends, family, and social media networks. Thinking ahead, we look forward to continuing bringing to you thought-provoking and informative content. But if you are facing challenges that we didn't talk about in this year's episodes, then get in touch and let me know. I'll do my best to create a brand new episode around it. You can write to us or engage with us on social media. Join me next week to kick off year 4 of the Forgive and Thrive show. Because remember, we are still together in this journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this content, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell and like this video. See you in the next one.